What's going on, TAP? That's right. This your boy Play B, chilling right here in the lab. What's up with it, Rev? How you doing, man?
What's going on, everybody? Oh, wow. Man, I'm on fire tonight. You weren't ready for me.
I'm not used to you being so close, man.
Yeah. Well, after listening to our last show, I was like, you know what? I need to make sure that I use my big boy voice today.
Oh, man.
And joining us today in the studio is a good friend of both of us, a good friend,
Yeah,
and now
awesome individual.
now a new friend of the show, of the TAP. Randy, welcome for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Me and Randy always have some of the greatest conversations regarding a lot that goes on in our current world, especially on the political scene. And I had this idea of wanting to talk about this. Now, we had talked about before that we wanted to move away from politics, but not completely. And there were some things that I wanted to like bounce around off of you, and also with Randy was this idea of I wanted to call it Pews and politics. What role do churches or Christians or any faith, what role do they play when it comes to politics?
Well,
now, we've talked for a while, and you said before that you were really big in as a Republican, right?
Well, I side more with them, yeah.
Yeah, side more with them.
Mm-hmm.
And let me ask you first, because you're not an atheist,
No.
right? But what do you think, and how from an outsider's perspective? And then I want to go to more. I'm gonna play the
You gonna do devil's advocate?
yeah,
here?
no, not the devil's advocate. I'm gonna play moderator for a second, all right?
Okay.
All right.
Oh, boy.
I want to get your opinion on what you feel like the role as an outsider, as a non-churched individual. I'm not saying non-spiritual, but as a non-church individual.
Right.
What do you see from your, and we talked about this before, so I want you to express what you've told to me and what you feel like the church, like whether that be any church, what do you
Right.
think their role should be, and how what part they should play in politics?
Well, the long and the short of it is, in my opinion, that whose idea was it in the first place? Was it government's idea to say we want to separate from church, or was it the church's idea to say maybe we need less government? I think therein lies the dilemma, because if it's the church saying, hey, you know what, we don't want to dabble into politics, then I don't think you should get involved altogether. You know what I mean?
So-
as far as bringing your ideology into politics. You know
So
what I mean?
you're saying that because there's a separation of church and state, because the church doesn't want to be controlled by the government, therefore you believe that they shouldn't have any part in the government.
No, well,
at all.
it goes in my mind. It's like this, okay? It's like if you don't want to play nice, then don't play at all, essentially. And that's for both sides. You know, it's like, okay, well, I could have as many opinions as I want, which is fine. My First Amendment right affords me that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, if I'm going to try to interject into something that you're doing, that I say, well, you know what, maybe me and Rev, we should separate my ideas from yours. Well, then I shouldn't get involved in yours. You shouldn't get involved in mine. To me, it just kind of makes common sense. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you're saying that the separation between church and state basically says that not only does the church or the state shouldn't be involved in church matters, but then the church shouldn't be involved in state matters.
At its core, yes. And I guess it would depend on who initiates that.
Okay.
You know? It's kind of like a divorce court. You know what I mean? It's like
we know about that.
It's like you want the alimony, but then you don't care how I make the money, essentially. But then
Okay.
you want to come tell me that, oh, well, you shouldn't do this, but yet you still want to get paid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. So I get what you mean. So basically, what you're saying is because ultimately, what from what we understand, the separation of church and state is that the church can't tell, or the state can't tell the church what and how to do things. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying because there's that, but your argument is if the church wanted it to be separate, then they have no role, or
No, it's like, okay, well, you want to make your bed and lie in it too,
Okay.
because we all see this thing going on in Utah where there's like, okay, well, you want to have 100 wives, which hey, well, why not, right? But then they say, well, we want to protect the children. I get that too. I'm not saying that's right, or there's a fine line to whereas there's either one party or the other is going to take too much control. And I'm saying, well, if you're going to do that, then let's get rid of both parties. And, I'll run for president next year or in December. Let's do
okay.
it.
So Randy, in your position, and with understanding the context of the separation of church and state, what role should the church as a whole and individual believers of whatever church or religion, what should their role be in government or in politics?
Well, in in politics, I believe that they should play a very active role because it's their world that they're in. The government is controlling what we are doing, and so we need to be represented, I believe, as a church. Because do we want somebody that's non-church coming in and telling us how to run our church? I'm not saying that we should take money from them or anything like that, but the whole separation of church and state was based on that there shouldn't be an official national religion.
Okay.
So that's where I'm coming from on that. And so,
Well, what if I don't agree with your church, though? See,
Well, but that's his
that
point.
becomes tyrannical. It's like,
No, but that's part of his point. His point is saying that one of the main reasons for the separation of church and state is not just so that one can influence the other necessarily, but also because that not one belief system, one church could be the head of the state, like you have in England, for instance. You got the Church of England,
right.
which is basically the official religious institution of that country. The same thing in a lot of Muslim countries is that their national identity is also tied in with their belief system, with their religious belief system. But the United States is kind of uniquely different in that it doesn't. I mean, more of the population might identify as believers or Christians or whatever, but it's not like the president prays at an altar of Jesus every day because that's part of the national identity. And I think that's the point that what we're making. So we could understand that there's not a national identity to a religious belief, but now the question is, so if let's look at the biblical concept, because we were talking about this one time in a study
I know,
group.
but before you get into that, my thing is anything could be interpreted as a religion. You know, my beliefs might differ from yours, which makes this country great. But where does the bus stop, though? Because essentially you're seeing that now. You have gay rights movement. You have Catholic movement. You have Christian. You have all these Muslims. You have all these things, which is great. That's what made America what it is. But when everybody says, okay, we all want to have our 2 cents, I get that. I trust me, I get it. That's why I'm saying there should be less of both. Because the church is going to always have their ideas and the government's always going to have their ideas, right? But where does it end? Who has ultimate control? Who has the ultimate authority in that? We all agree that we're not the ultimate authority, right? You know, so right now I could say, hey, I'm going to start up this new religion to Corona Premier, and I think you guys are all wrong, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm going to go and run for president and just make this a statute.
But the point is that because you believe that, it's not a part of the national identity where you can make a crime. You got to remember, for thousands of the years of the church was so married.
But that's what I'm saying. You can't do that either as the church.
Yeah, and I believe that.
right.
But
I'm
that's
just saying do it as the people.
But wasn't that the argument? Is like, you know, should we separate? I believe so, but at the same time, we can't get upset when it don't go our way if we chose to separate. That's all I'm saying. This is just childish that way. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let me pose another question in a different way. So in light of, so should Christians run for office? Like, do
Why
you
not? It's America. It's a free country.
Well, I know, but if like, let's say in your opinion, if of course they're going to carry an ideology which is
fine. My thing is, though, don't get your panties in a bunch when I don't agree with you, because that's essentially what we're getting at, right? That's essentially what we're talking about. Because you have all these people like, there's too much state, or there's too much government, and then there's too much. Well, you know what? If you don't like it, get out there and vote.
Okay, so let me ask you this: right? Should the church organize groups and protests or marches that have a political agenda?
I say why not, honestly.
I say why not? Too.
This is America. Let's not forget. We're taking that out of this equation, I feel.
Okay.
Is that we may agree to disagree on this whole thing, but ultimately, neither one of us has the authority to say, because this is a free country and we should keep it that way. You know what I mean? Ultimately, it's like, I think therein is the argument where people mislead each other. We forget that we're free. Like, how awesome is that, Randy, that we get to have this discussion right here, you know, and we could have, opposite opinions or differing opinions, but at the same time, we're free to do it. I think that should be the main focal point of this whole thing.
But that's what makes America.
Yeah, and this is awesome, and that's an awesome thing, and that's why I get kind of like upset with especially young kids, and I hate to put this on anyone, any particular generation or what have you, or age group, but looking around in this time, this day and age, it's like I think people are forgetting what people sacrifice for us in order just to even have the simple right to walk down the street, whether it be Black Lives Matter or Brown Lives Matter or Women Lives Matter or what, I don't know, whatever, whatever label you choose to put on it. Someone died for you to have that. We should honor them, not in rioting, not in looting, because I think that just spits in the face of Martin Luther King and all these other people that came before them.
And not in kneeling.
Right.
And okay, so and that's another thing. So we in my perspective, as a believer and as somebody that believes in the United States, that believes in the ideology behind the United States, I can't understand how somebody could kneel for the flag. I could respect the fact that they want to and they have an argument for it. I just don't understand.
You know what it is?
It's
a lack of I don't want to say fear of authority. That's not it, but it's a lack of respect. In our generation, our day, and not that we're all old or whatever, but we all grew up with a certain degree of you respect, no matter what. You respect your teacher, you respect a police officer, you respect whoever's in authority. I think that's gone nowadays. And I think part of the reason is we're not allowed to spank our kids anymore. But honestly, that's just my opinion. I'm just throwing it out there. That's neither here nor there, but
okay, so I want to ask Randy a couple things because he has a little bit more. I don't want to say years, but I want to say I'll say wisdom. You have a little bit more wisdom.
A little more wisdom.
A little bit more wisdom. So what kind of effect has the church had in the political realm? Where has it failed, and where do you think it can do better?
Well, it hasn't had much of an effect. It's mostly been being ruled by the other people. And we're living kind of in the backwash of what they're, putting out to us. So now we're running into all this division.
Okay. So it's like everything is coming to a head now. Everything's like manifesting.
So the church hasn't had a chance to actually plant its flag and claim.
Well, it's had its chance. They just haven't done it.
They haven't done it. Okay.
So what would be the? I'm playing devil's advocate.
Go ahead.
What would be the ideal? If the church, what have you, for lack of a better word or whatnot, would have full control of the government per se, what would be the ultimate goal or the end goal for that? Would it be for everybody to, not picking any one religion, but would it be for anybody to just all ultimately serve one higher power, or what's the? I'm just curious because I don't know.
That's a good question.
Like if the church were to take the country, not the country, but the government over, like
I don't think that happens. Let's not say that. Let's say, for instance, not one particular.
Right.
I don't think the goal is to force, and that would be wrong. That theocracy was always wrong.
And that's what I'm just because I think some listeners might misconstrue it that way. That's why I'm just want to make sure it's clear that we're not saying that we're here to push an agenda or whatever, what have you. But
okay,
what would it look like if this was?
Allow me to contrast.
Yeah, go ahead.
What we're seeing here. So you're talking about forcing a belief system.
No, what would be the goal of
well, okay. I know, but you're saying so. The goal should not be forcing a belief system. The goal isn't to stand before a group of people and to say you need to do this to show that you're in support of this. Just like in the Inquisition, in the Spanish Inquisition, where they got the Jews and they said, you need to do A, B, and C to prove that you believe in Christianity, and if you don't, then
you're taken out. Right.
So we can see it right now, and I'm going to show you right here in what's evident in our culture right now with the BLM movement. All right.
Yeah. So I'm going to mute the mics while we play this. What's the biggest kicker for me is they're saying no peace. Yeah. Ultimately, wouldn't they want peace?
No.
Don't we all?
No.
Right? Isn't that by them just saying no justice, no peace? To me, that makes this a mob or a tyrannical, nothing about this is a peaceful protest, right? Or am I just hallucinating here?
So anyway, the gist of the situation right here, because we're talking about forcing an ideology, and that's why a lot of people are very weary of Christians being too involved in politics, is because they think they're going to force a belief system on other people.
And
but
that's what I was getting at.
We're evidencing that right now, right here, when you have a group of Black Lives Matter protesters who are
all white,
that are all white.
Wait, can we say that now? Is it politically incorrect?
Well, no, we can't. It's white. It's white. If we say white, we'll be fine.
White's
Sorry,
bad. White's bad. White's bad.
Oh man.
So you have a group of people, the Black Lives Matter organization. Now we could differentiate between the statement and the organization. The organization itself is a Marxist organization. Yep. They want you to believe exactly how they believe, and they will shame you if you don't. That's that is the main example of a theocracy. Except they're not calling it a theocracy.
No,
it's a man-centered religion.
Yeah, right.
They're asking the same thing that everybody's fearing, that the religious right we're going to force back in the 80s and 90s, but now it's done with the communist and a Marxist bent. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Well, and this is, if I was a black
really
person,
quick,
go ahead.
I want to ask you.
Go ahead.
What should the Christian prepare for in light of everything that's happening in our society with the rise of socialism, of Bernie Sanders and AOC, and the Marxist movement that we see in Black Lives Matter?
And the church will have to move underground, because we're going to be basically persecuted and killed for what we believe.
Well, it's interesting because me and Randy were talking about history earlier. Remember, Randy?
Yes, sir.
And we were saying how history, if you don't learn from it, you're doomed to repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of goes hand in hand, honestly. I think, in my opinion, it's like, do I need to get over? Rev, you want to get your finger out of there now?
Just scooting you in a little bit more. Don't be afraid of me.
You got to buy me dinner first. I'm a lady. Anyway, so yeah, and that's the sad thing of it, though, is people just don't know. Like, honestly, if I was a person of color or melatonin, what's his name?
Melatonin, like Nick Cannon said?
Yeah, like Nick Cannon said. If I was an African-American individual or an individual of color, if you will, and I see this and I hear Black Lives Matter, but then I see things like this, I would be ashamed to be black. And there I said it. I would be ashamed. If this was Mexican Lives Matter or Brown Berets like back in the day, and I see this kind of stuff, I'm like, this just flies in the face. This spits in the face of Cesar Chavez and all these other people that actually said, you know what, we're going to do this peacefully and show them that we're better than this, right? Isn't that ultimately the goal, is to show the man, whoever that is, that say, hey, you know what, we are human beings, so let's conduct ourselves that way. Ultimately, I think that's what they should be doing and not doing this. And if I get stoned for this or persecuted for it, I'm going to be out there and say straight up, I think individuals that are engaging in this should be ashamed of themselves. And you're making this whole movement about yourself and not about the movement ultimately.
There's a principle in Scripture where Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. They asked him a question about, paying taxes. And Jesus says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and then render unto God what belongs to God. So, and Randy, I'm going to throw this to you, because that's not just talking about taxes.
Dude, has it been almost 20 minutes already? This is crazy. That's good.
There's a point where a lot of believers, and I've been guilty of this too, where you kind of dismiss, like, oh, we don't need to be worried about politics. We don't need to worry about who's the president. We don't need to worry
about that.
Sometimes
we get sidetracked. I get it.
But
the whole side of my family believes that.
And what is the error in that? Like, is that a right way for a believer to think, like, we should not care what happens in the political realm?
No, because Jesus said he raises whom he raises.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that doesn't boycott the Christian. Oh, well, you're a Christian, you can't go there, you're not good enough.
Right.
Yeah. No, that is true.
So,
and
we don't want to help the world out either, so.
Well, yeah.
Why don't you just sit back and be quiet?
Yeah, not just and I think politics could be a vehicle for a lot of good to happen, and we've seen that. And a lot of bad has happened. We have to acknowledge in both that the country is guilty of horrendous evil, but at the same time, our country has also promoted the greatest good in the world.
Absolutely.
Both can be true at the same time. Both can be true at the same time. And what we have done is you see a progression away from some of the things that made us a terrible country, and you've actually seen us becoming a more gracious and a better suited country for a lot. That's why people want to come here. Damn it.
Well, case in point, like right now, what's going on? It's like we should take this opportunity to make things better, not make things worse.
And on that, thank you
is
guys for listening. This is not going to be the last time we talk about this. Like I said, we're going to go back and forth with all these topics. So we'll definitely pick this up again. So Randy, thanks for joining in on this.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be the last time. We're going to talk more about this, but we're going to catch you guys on the next segment, and it's going to be interesting. So stay tuned.